and successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency. The meeting is called to order, and I will ask our city clerk to please call the roll.
All council members are present.
Great. Would you please stand then for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a brief moment of silence? And Chief Davis, would you be willing to lead us in the pledge?
Be my honor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, item 1 is the fiscal year 2018-2019 annual budget, and I'd like the staff to please come and introduce this. Thank you, Graham.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. The purpose of this afternoon's special agenda is to present the preliminary budget for the fiscal year 2018-2019. I'm going to say a few introductory comments before I turn the remainder of the time over to our Finance Director, Ms. Cajon. But before doing that, I wanted to let the Council know that after we've presented the budget, the preliminary budget, will be available to answer any questions, either between myself or Mr. Shane, as well as the department directors are here to answer specific questions about their departments. And then after that, staff is seeking solicitation of feedback on how to present the final budget for your consideration at the next meeting on June 26th. I believe that this budget accomplishes the objectives of presenting a fiscally responsible budget and a fiscal plan while ensuring that basic city obligations are met. There's sort of 3 goals that I think that this budget reflects. First, it's conservative in its assumptions for both revenue and expenditures. It is also fiscally conservative in that it maintains our current reserve funds. I believe it also meets many community needs that were implemented last year for the first time. There's a continuation of those needs, and you'll see some additional community needs that are accomplished through this budget. And then it also demonstrates a progressive approach to delivering basic municipal services, and I'll highlight some of those changes as well. In terms of the city's conservative, or staff's conservative approach in this budget, it balances the budget without the use of any reserves. We've been able to maintain our operating reserves at more than 20%, which the City Council has a goal to maintain the 20% reserves. We've accomplished a little bit higher than that. The total, if you take the total reserves in the general fund as a percentage of total expenditures in the general fund, our reserves equal about 52%, which is one of the highest in San Diego County. It's something that this council should be very proud of. We also are able to maintain the city's $8 million pension reserve fund, and we do not touch it this year despite the increase in PERS rates. If you look at our ability to contain costs in this budget, if you exclude the PERS rates, we're able to maintain personnel costs at 2%, which is pretty good considering the cost of living that are occurring in our current MOUs and what those are guaranteeing our employees. And we've been able to maintain our service and supply costs at only 1.3% increase over the previous budget year. So in a year where inflation is almost hitting 3%, we've been able to maintain our services and supplies at about half of the inflationary rate. In terms of community needs, we could spend a whole day, go page by page through the budget and talk about the wonderful things that this budget does for our community, but I'm going to just highlight a few things. Relating to public safety, I want to remind the council that last year in December we implemented the Squad 6 concept, where we take a truck, or a pickup truck, and outfit it with 2 personnel. We've been operating under that model for about 6 months now. We're looking forward to bringing forward some data to show how effective that has been. We continue that program in this budget. We are on the verge of hiring several park rangers, where they are currently in background, as I'm told right now, and they should be on board in the use of those park rangers. It'll free up time that our police department spends in our parks and take a more proactive takeovering of our parks for our residents. We also are deploying our public safety staff a little bit differently than we have before. I'm going to talk about that in 2 slides. We also continue our homeless programming as the previous year. We still have some contractual commitments to fulfill, and we've shifted those costs from the general fund to low, moderate housing funding, so it's not hitting our general fund. Even though we've budgeted for those, we do want to bring back a report later this summer that shows how effective or ineffective our programming has been thus far, and then make some determinations of how to go forward. But we think it's prudent at this time to include that money in the budget for next year. This budget includes $300,000 in economic development fund. We usually have carried that amount from year to year. We rarely use much of it, but it's a tool that we can use in the event that we need to entice a business, to help attract a business, to help grow a business. It's something that's useful. Through the city manager's office and the community development department this year, we are going to proactively market the MTS property with MTS's help to create a catalyst program or a catalyst project in our transit specific plan area, and we look forward to spending some city resources and personnel primarily on that effort. Our CIP is one of the largest we've experienced in years. It's a $31 million CIP. Mr. Shane's going to walk through some of the larger projects. But one of those projects includes the remodeling of the rehabilitation of the East County Performing Arts Center. We're excited for that to open up about middle of the fiscal year in January 2019. And there's funding for that. We've received a lot of attention on Wells Park, some of it negative. One of the things that we're doing in addition to the park rangers is our recreation staff has been deploying recreation leaders to go what I call pop-up recreation classes, where they'll show up with a bucket full of different types of sports equipment and invite kids to play. We've had as many as 16 children out there playing impromptu pickup games under the sort of the tutelage and mentoring of our rec leaders. It's been a really great program to bring people back to the park, to create some positive energy in the park. This budget includes that continuation of that program. And we also plan on implementing phase 2 of the improvements that we introduced about a year ago at Wells Park, which includes finally opening the restrooms, the remodeled restrooms with a new sewer pipe, as well as the marketing of some of the back areas for a future soccer complex. So we'll be working on that as well as part of this budget. And lastly, we'll be continuing a lot of the community events that we've supported in the years. I've watched these events grow and be honed over the years, and I think they're a tremendous asset that this budget provides to our community, whether it's America on Main Street, the 4th of July event, Haunt Fest, and our support for the St. Patrick's Marathon and the Mother Goose Parade. Finally, let me highlight some of what I consider as innovative, some reflections of innovation that are in this current budget. Included in this budget, predicated on the council's actions at your 3 o'clock meeting, is the implementation of a street sweeping contract. We will, for the first time, and I don't know how many years, probably since the city's existence, will be contracting out street sweeping services with a private company. I think this is a move in the right direction. It ensures a better delivery of product, and it's significantly less expensive. These are some things that we'll continue to work on as we implement this budget for next year's budget as well. We'll be continuing with our analysis of the Advanced Pure Water Program with Padre Dam, Helix Water, and the County of San Diego. We will be continuing to streamline economic development permitting through our project, through our program where we review permits at one counter. We'll continue that program, as well as continue to market programs and projects and parcels throughout the city. And then lastly, I touched on this earlier, but our police department started using a special enforcement unit this last year. And it kind of grew out of the use of a lot of things that we had been doing, but we put it under one umbrella. Our homeless outreach team, for example, falls under the special unit. But we're using data, crime analysis, to pinpoint where crimes are occurring, and this unit specifically focuses on issues that affect the quality of life in our community. Not just burglaries and those types of crimes, but some of those softer crimes that are a little bit more visible and have an impact on our businesses. So we'll be continuing to utilize that tool and hopefully provide some interesting data for the City Council to review at some point soon. Before turning time over to Mr. Shane, I wanted to express my appreciation to staff that worked so hard on this. Mr. Shane and his finance team put a lot of effort into this. The department directors and their staff have done some wonderful work. Also, second, I'd like to express my satisfaction with this budget. We don't present a glamorous budget. I'm not here to tell you have lots of money you can spend. It's a balanced budget, but it's a very leanly balanced budget. There's not a lot of whistles and bells in it, but I think it's one that's prudent for this next fiscal year, one that is hopeful for a good economy, but also recognizes that we could be turning toward another recession. So we're cautiously moving forward with this budget. So with that, I'll turn the remainder of the time over to Mr. Shane.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, council member, members, city staff, members of the public. My name is Clay Shane. I'm the Director of Finance here for the City of El Cajon, and it's my great pleasure to be here with you today. Before we get too far along, wanted to briefly update you on where we are in the budget process, as Graham mentioned. Apparently, I have inadvertently hit a button. There we are. Today's special session is to brief the City Council and the public on the preliminary budget document, and then we will return on the 26th at the regular City Council meeting to exercise our public hearings as well as finalize and hopefully adopt the final budget. The budget document is available on the city's website, cityofelcajon.us. Pretty easy to get to once you find the Finance Department's page. There's a separate tab there for budget, and you'll see it. I wanted to thank Mary Ann Prowl for her hard work on the cover. I think she did an outstanding job again this year for us. My portion of the presentation today is going to touch on these subjects. I want to briefly discuss the economy, budget overview, the general fund, the wastewater fund, and then briefly summarize the other city funds as well as the CIP program. On the economy, we have a lot of conflicting information right now. The economy continues to expand. We've seen a GDP between 2 and 3% for several years in a row, and despite economists forecasting, it just continues to plug along. Unemployment rates continue to drop. Currently, the national unemployment rate is at 3.8%, and there are several states, including Hawaii, I saw just yesterday, that are at 2%, unbelievably. Home prices continue to increase, both nationally and in the San Diego market, as well as home starts and residential permits. However, most economists are starting to send a message that they're anticipating this growth to slow. Largely, they think the economy is going to be constrained by the falling unemployment rate. Frankly, they don't think the nation has a workforce that can sustain the growth that we're seeing. So some economists are starting to forecast a softening of the economy. However, at this time last year when we were preparing the budget, there were similar intonations, and we took a conservative approach to our sales tax receipts, and we were pleasantly surprised, and we'll get to that here in a moment. Even with that being said, however, I think the anticipation is continued growth, if not slowing. Overall, the budget presented today is a $168 million spending plan for the city's 5 fund types. The primary operating fund for the city is the general fund, and it makes up approximately half of this plan. Special revenue funds are approximately $13 million, wastewater approximately $32 million, Internal service funds, $11.5 million, and CIP funds, $31 million. Just expressed here in this pie graph, you can kind of see the big wedge is the general fund. It makes up approximately half of the city's budget. It gets most of the attention. And generally, when people casually refer to the budget, almost universally, they're referring to the general fund. So on to the general fund. Before we get started discussing the proposed FY19 budget, I wanted to take a minute to discuss where we expect to finish FY18. We're currently projecting revenues to total approximately $72.1 million, and that's 3.4% over budget. I don't usually like to talk about being wrong, but I think it's important on this one to discuss why we missed that a little bit, and I think that goes back to my comments about the expectation of the softening economy, where our sales tax advisors, as well as some of the information we were seeing, caused us to take a little bit too conservative of an estimate on sales tax, and it continued to plug along at fairly impressive growth rates. Almost all of that over budget is driven by sales tax. This is also about 5.9% up from the previous fiscal year, FY17. On the expenditure side, we expect to close the year at about $68.2 million, and this is $3.4 million under budget. It's under budget for a variety of reasons. This is driven by conservative spending throughout the general fund as well as vacancies. However, with that being said, it is still an increase of approximately 5.5% from the previous fiscal year. Taken all together, that activity represents $3.9 million to increase general fund balance at the end of FY18. Just wanted to make a reminder here, when we were adopting the budget last year, we were anticipating having to begin the use of the PERS reserve. So the fact that we could finish the year in a positive state is quite a good thing, good news. Moving on to FY19, on the revenue side of the general fund, we anticipate revenues next year totaling $74.8 million. This is approximately 3.8% up from the current fiscal year. Most of this growth, and we'll show you some more detail here in a second, is in sales tax and property tax, which together represent approximately 77% of total general fund revenues. You've heard me say this in previous years, so goes sales tax, so goes the general fund. All other categories represent approximately 23%. Here again, this is represented graphically, and here again, the big blue wedge is sales tax, and the red is property tax, just to give you an idea visually of how big and how important these revenue streams are to the city. This information is presented in the budget document, so I don't think it serves our time well for me to read it to you. This details the growth of the individual revenue categories. Overall, 3.8% increase. Most of it is in your top four lines, which are your big sales tax and property tax categories. We're anticipating sales tax to continue to move along at approximately 5% in the next year, with property tax, base regular 1% property tax, at approximately 5.9%. On the expenditure side, we're presenting the budget here by category, by expenditure category. Overall, the expenditure plan for the general fund totals just shy of $80 million, which is 11% up from the previous fiscal year. However, I wanted to point out the very last item there, transfers and other, for $5.9 million. And I think it's really important when we're analyzing this to consider what that is specifically. The vast majority of that money are the proceeds from the sale of the 100 Fletcher, the former police station, where it was, if you recall, the city sold it to the successor agency over a multi-year note. We collected those funds in the general fund. Most financial experts think it is a prudent thing to do, and I agree, to take the proceeds from the sale of long-term capital assets and turn them back into additional capital assets. If you see an organization selling off assets to keep the lights on, it's generally bad news and red flags. If you adjust these numbers for that $4.8 million from the 100 Fletcher sale, total bottom line expenditures in the general fund increased approximately 4.4%. Most of that is in the staffing category, which increased just shy of $2 million, with the most significant component there being CalPERS benefit contributions. This is a topic that we've talked about an awful lot over the last few years, so I don't want to repeat it too much. Increasingly, I'm starting to look at this a little bit differently than I have in the past. Our contributions have historically been expressed as a percentage of payroll, but frankly, I think that's starting to lose context a little bit. I think the numbers are getting so big that I'm starting to think about it in terms of total contribution. As you can see here, over the 6 years that are presented there, our annual contribution to CalPERS is going to increase $10 million a year. I don't want to belabor the point a little bit, but if you were to hold the FY19 contributions constant for the years demonstrated there, you're looking at a $31.5 million increase over that span, that 5-year span. When we look at general fund expenditures by program, most of the general funds categories are relatively flat, some minor increases, some minor decreases. The two exceptions are the public safety departments, police and fire, which both have some growth from year to year. The commitment to public safety is something that the city has traditionally taken very seriously. Together, they represent approximately 70% of the general fund. So that brings us to this slide, which pulls together our anticipated results from FY18 and 19. Just to run through it real quickly so we understand the relationship these all have together. We started the current fiscal year, FY18, with approximately $39 million in total reserves. The activity during 18 will increase it by the 3.9 we discussed, ending this fiscal year just shy of $43 million in reserves. Then the activity we just presented for FY19, revenues totaling $74.8 million against expenditures of just shy of $80 million. We're anticipating ending next year with a total fund balance of $38.1 million. These reserves are broken into the following categories. The general fund's operating reserve, 20% operating reserve, is just shy of $16 million, with the carryover reserve approximately $7.6 million. And as Graham said, we have been able to maintain the PERS liability reserves at 8, as well as the designated for economic uncertainty reserve at $6.5 million. Moving on to the wastewater fund, we're anticipating starting FY19 with approximately $10.4 million in reserves. We anticipate revenues of $23.8 million against operating expenditures of $21.6, and we anticipate capital and other financing uses totaling approximately $10.4 million. The last few years, we've talked about the fund balance in the wastewater fund, and I've talked about how we've accumulated fund balance in wastewater in anticipation of large CIP projects such as Johnson Sewer. Now we see that starting to return to more standard balances. On to our special revenue funds. These are funds that have unique revenue sources and are restricted in use, the largest of which is the low and moderate income housing funds, just shy of $4 million of anticipated activity next year. The street maintenance fund, also known as the gas tax fund, approximately $3.2 million, CDBG 1.5, and a variety of federal, state, and local grants, which we account together in a single fund, approximately $890,000, and ECPAC, approximately $643,000. A note on the ECPAC fund, while there's a number of unanswered questions as far as the operations of ECPAC, We're anticipating operations beginning. This budget is basically a swing, a guesstimate to put something in place so that we're ready to operate on day one. I would anticipate as information comes forward, we may revise that number, but that gives us something to work with and be ready to go when the facility is ready. City operates 5 internal service funds, the largest of which is our Information Technology Services Fund. We anticipate about $4 million worth of activity next year. We also operate our Vehicle and Equipment Maintenance Fund, which has $2.8 million worth of activity expected for next year. Self-insurance, $1.9 million. The Post-Employment Benefit Fund, $1.6 million. And the Vehicle Replacement Fund at $1.2 million. The CIP program is presented here, broken down by its 5 major categories. As Graham said, we have a total of $31.5 million worth of projects slated for next year. The biggest 3 are transportation, wastewater, and facilities, all totaling approximately $10 million, with parks projects, which is for the most part our Wells Park projects, as well as some residual activity with the public safety funds. Looking at the same program a slightly different way, this slide demonstrates the top 10 largest projects, led, of course, by the ECPAC project, totaling $6.3 million. I know there's been a lot of numbers thrown around on that project. That's inclusive of all costs related to that facility, not just the construction costs. Vast majority of these projects are the meat and potatoes you would expect from government, streets, sewer, storm drain. What's not demonstrated here are 33 projects make up $8.8 million. And altogether, as I said, 31.5 in the CIP program for next year. With that, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you very much for that. Excellent presentation. All right, Council, do you have any questions for staff? Gary, you first?
Well, I have a statement.
Feel free.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to comment on this budget. First, I want to express how impressed I am with the professional resumes of those on this city council. For those of you who don't know, I have a bachelor's degree in business management and a master's degree in real estate. I have years of budget experience building a successful business from the ground up. I taught business finance and related courses at Southwestern College for about 10 years. Mayor Wells has a doctorate and held a successful career as a hospital administrator before starting a thriving healthcare business. Councilmember McClellan operated a successful car dealership, which was an icon in our community for over 4 decades. Councilman Goebel has a bachelor's degree in business and an MBA in marketing. He oversaw corporate accounting and marketing for Jack in the Box and Family Bargain Center. He is now a senior vice president of a national company based in San Diego. Councilmember Colascio has taken courses in economics at UCSD Extension, and he has operated small businesses since he was 12 years old. Between our city manager, finance director, and department directors, our staff have many years of budget preparation experience. Over the years, I've reviewed many budgets. I've overseen budget adoption during 10 election cycles. Budget review can sometimes become an opportunity for politicians to make unrealistic promises or misleading, alarmist claims. Some attempt to hold the city hostage by grandstanding with unreasonable last-minute changes. In my experience, such approaches do not serve the best interests of our city. In fact, these tactics can hurt our city and shake the confidence of those wanting to invest in our community. I would like to remind my esteemed colleagues that adding one budget item means subtracting from another, so I ask that if any changes are proposed, such changes be suggested today and that they include a detailed description of the programs to be cut. I will not support any new taxes. I respect our staff's experience in presenting a balanced budget that does not dip into our reserves. El Cajon enjoys some of the highest reserves in the county. I believe that fiscally prudent measures adopted by the City Council during the last recession has significantly strengthened our city's finances. This budget reflects years of experience and a continuing dedication to fiscal responsibility, and I am really proud of every one of our staff members who had something to do with this. You guys are doing a really great job.
Bob?
I have one question, and the reserve for the pension liability, apparently there's no advantage for us to prepay that that amount that we've set aside into the pension liability. There's no advantage to that?
So I mean, it pains staff to have $8 million sitting in a fund. If there was a way to pay that down, that would make sense. But the amount of unfunded liability versus $8 million, it would literally be like spitting into the wind. You would never notice it. So it's a good question. It's something that Mr. Shane and I actually had a long discussion about today, and it's something we want to figure out a way to perhaps better utilize that $8 million, at least generate a little bit higher interest off of it. But it's a great tool, especially if there's a downturn in the economy. It's another safe gap that this council has before reducing services dramatically.
And undoubtedly there will be another downturn in the economy at some point in time. We don't know when, but it will come. And it really hurt us the last time because we depend so much on sales tax. So much of our income revenue is sales tax that it really hurt the automobile industry tremendously. I know I was affected by that, and it was a good time for me to get out, and I was very happy to do so. Good time to retire from the automobile business. But that could come again. I've seen it happen numerous times in the automobile business, and it will come back and get us again. So good thing that you're holding on to that.
Ben?
Clay, I guess this question is for you. Could you, for the benefit of people watching, tell me or explain the gas tax, how it's collected? Is it collected in more ways than one, more than at the pump?
Well, the largest component of gas tax is the gas tax component that we're very familiar with at the pump. There is a separate tax rate for diesel fuel, but generally when we talk about gas tax, there's also a component of vehicle registration and a few other DMV fees that go into that as well. But the lion's share is what we conventionally know of as gas tax.
And the lion's share is approximately 18 cents per gallon, is that correct?
I believe that was the pre-SB1 rate. Off the top of my head, I don't know what the current rate is, but I'd be happy to provide that information at the next time we meet or before then.
The $3.4 million under budget, the way you explained it was conservative, basically conservative budgeting. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is 90% of that, approximate 90% of that from property tax collection?
Well, we were over budget on both property tax and...
So that was like $2 million or more of that, correct?
Let me get my notes here. Hold on just a second. Excuse me for taking a moment to look at this time of year. I have a lot of numbers in my head, so I don't want to misspeak.
It's kind of a big document.
So of the total 2.7 million that the general fund was under or over budget on the revenue side, sorry, went to the wrong page again. Of the amount that the general fund was over budget on revenue, approximately 1 million of it was in just our normal standard sales tax.
Right, so 90% then would be, 90% of the overage would have been from property tax, more or less?
I would say that would, I hate to speak to a specific number, but I would say that.
I won't hold you
yes,
to
the
it.
Preponderance
As a
of it
fellow
would be
facial hair
sales
person,
tax.
I won't hold you to it.
I would say the majority of that overage would be in sales tax, yes.
So,
Excuse me, did you say sales tax or property tax? I think his question was the majority
no, I got
property
it.
tax.
I got it. Yeah.
I just want to clarify for myself.
Sales tax.
So sales tax is not property tax. Okay.
We did overperform on property tax, but it was a negligible amount.
Thanks.
So, when you explained it, it was like a conservative projections, but I think what I take away from it is we have this increase because it's out of our control, because the economy in the housing market is thriving due to no inventory, and so that's why we have that. So I think it's more luck, right? I mean, minus the sales tax part, because that's we can more or less oversee and control it, but when 90% of the overage comes from property taxes and home value increase, or am I not understanding it correctly?
I would say that, I don't know if I would say luck, but certainly beyond our control.
Yeah, so that's what I mean, because when I heard it, it was like we made conservative projections, like we had something to do with it. We didn't have anything to do with that part.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, at some point, we have to look into our crystal balls and estimate what we think is going to happen last year. Our normal process is following, and I'm making a really finely cut distinction here, but normally we do what most people would call projections. We take our current activity and we project that into the future, assuming no changes. Last year, we used the information provided with our analysts that were forecasting and expecting to see an economic slowdown that did not happen.
Yeah, I understand. I've actually put these together. I've done more things than Councilman Kendrick gave me. I have to give him an updated biography. But, okay, so page 29.
Well, to finish that point, I think the one thing I always say about projections is every single one of them that anyone does is wrong. But at some point, we have to put our fingers on paper and come up with a number.
I guess I just had a little issue with, because it comes from property tax. So to me, if the bulk of it comes from property tax, I mean, it could have just easily went the other way. Right?
Excuse me, I have to clarify again. I think we're talking about two different things. Councilman Colosimo keeps saying most of the money is coming from property tax, but I think that most of the money is coming from sales tax, right?
Yeah, sales tax, I thought we were talking about sales tax. Property tax is far less volatile and slow moving.
From the 3.4, is the majority of that from property tax?
Sales tax.
So you just said 1 million from sales tax?
Yes.
2 million would be from property tax?
The total over budget in the tax category alone was $1.5 million, with most of that being in sales tax. All the other revenue categories together account for the remainder of that change.
I think it's a little bit different than what I saw on there, because I saw the two categories of property tax, and they were almost $1 million each over last year's.
$1 million each over last year's.
According to page 27.
Going from 19.
Page 27 shows about 100,000 in property tax sales tax in lieu of, and then property tax BLF about 300,000, almost 4.
Okay,
and
so
then about a 300,000 drop in RFP TTF distribution.
I think
so. It's pretty close.
I think a better way then maybe help me understand. So of that 3.4, just I guess rough, a majority of that is from sales tax. Then the rest of the 2 million is from everything else?
Everything else,
From that 2 million, how much is property tax?
about $500,000.
About $500,000 is property tax. Okay. On page 29, what are loan proceeds? What were loan proceeds and what were they used for?
Part of the funding mechanism for the Johnson Sewer project was a loan from the California State Water Resources Board, a revolving loan program, where if we meet certain criteria, they forgive part of that loan. Those loan proceeds are the drawing down from that program.
Do any of the gas tax money go to those?
No, I believe what you're looking at on the page, bottom of page 29 is for the wastewater fund, which is completely independent of gas tax.
And could you elaborate on page 30, the inspection, training, and personnel? What is that for?
That might be, depending on how much detail you want to go into.
Not really, just...
That's the division of the police department to train their officers, train their staff, backgrounds.
Is it safe to say that there was an increase in that training because of new hires? And
Not necessarily. One of the small technical changes we made this year was the reallocation of IT costs from a single activity in the police department to spreading them out to the various units. So without sitting down and doing that analysis, I would guess that's what it was.
thank you.
Steve?
Two questions. Referring to page 8.
Okay.
The South Dakota versus Wayfair Senate Bill 1466 is potential legislation that would affect how sales tax is calculated and thus forwarded to municipalities. We get an allocation of sales tax revenue from the county, I believe, based on our share of population or something like that, right?
That's correct.
What proportion of our sales tax income is internet tax from the county?
Not a tremendous component. It really is pennies on the dollars compared to our normal sales tax generation. The funny with all of this activity, the South Dakota case and the Senate Bill 1466, is they're both attempting to capture what's currently not being captured, so we really don't know for sure what the impact will be, but I would not anticipate it being earth-shattering in any condition.
For instance, if internet tax income was 5% of total sales tax income, our exposure is not that great. If internet tax income is 40% of total sales tax income, our exposure is greater. So you're saying we're probably closer to the lower end. The internet tax income from the county is a low percentage of the overall sales tax income, and therefore our exposure's lower?
Where it gets a little muddy on this subject is we are a sales tax capture community, and we get more sales tax than we generate ourselves. When these kind of initiatives start taxing people from their residence or where they're shipping to, you're kind of putting up a standard El Cajon resident up against other communities, and I'm not sure. But what if we're collecting more as a result of our current model than what we will under these?
Okay.
But like I said, there's so much that's unknown because none of this is being captured right now that I don't think anyone is really able to put a number on it.
Do you think it's potential incremental income rather than reclassification or loss due to nexus?
I would not be prepared to make that statement either
Okay.
way, just because there is enough that's unknown on this.
So it's the wild, wild west out there in terms of
It
what's
kind of
gonna
is
happen.
for us. I think other cities, it's pretty easy to draw conclusions. You'd look at a community that's very wealthy, for example, you would imagine that they do above average share of shopping on the internet, and you would have to assume that that would therefore generate more sales tax revenue for them, but I don't know if that's the case because our percentage is driven by other mechanisms.
Got it. And on the next item down, Road Repair Accountability Act, I believe that's called SB1. We're getting somewhat of a windfall this year on that. If that's repealed in November, how does that affect us?
Well, that gives us far less working capital to pave and redo the streets in El Cajon. So I would imagine it was directly proportional to the condition of the streets.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Welcome.
Couple of quick questions, Clay.
Sure.
When you talk about the ECPAC, $6.3 million budget this year, a lot of these are one-time costs, right? What's it going to look like year after year, approximately, once we're done with the one-time costs?
I have not seen the pro formas as far as operations or the capital upkeep.
I bet
not
your
sure if
city
that's
manager knows.
available yet or not.
We don't have exact figures quite yet because we are still working on the pro forma with them as they look to understand the revenue they can generate. We're actually looking at adding some additional seats there, so that will change our revenue generation. But we have gone into this thinking that in looking at the Riverside model, for example, their subsidy started out as about $1 million a year. They were looking at 2 venues, so if you were to take half of that, $500,000, that may be realistic in year one, $500,000, and then we see that ratcheting down over the years. By year 3, we'll be at our max capacity in terms of events, and so that should break even. That's about when Riverside broke even in year 3. So we see that driving down over the next 3 years.
If I remember, I think we were using a one-time windfall, though, to pay for this, most of the $6 million of construction, right? So that won't be recurring.
Correct. We were using proceeds from the sale of the old police station to pay for the renovations. And then we did bankroll, as Mr. Shane explained, we put money into our operating fund. So that was some one-time money that went into that, and that will help carry the program until it breaks even.
Yeah, I just want to point out, because it might be a little bit misleading to think that we're spending $6.5 million a year on a performing arts center, which is not going to be the case. All right, great. And then the other question was, can you give me just a brief overview on how we're doing on deferred maintenance? Are we maintaining our obligations in that respect in this budget?
One of the things that we're pleased about is the $31.5 million in CIP projects, and that does hit some of the deferred maintenance issues. Not only this upcoming year, but this last year we've put a lot of money into our facilities, the AC in this building, the HVAC system in the neighboring building. Really, the upgrade of ECPAC has been a deferred maintenance program. The amount of investment we're putting into the sewer lines this year is around that area. Our streets are getting a lot of attention this year, especially with the windfall of SB1. Some of our park maintenance that we'll be investing in Wells Park is part of that. So I think we're doing good on our deferred maintenance. Could we use more funding? Of course, we could always use more funding, but I don't see us letting parts of the city go unmaintained in order to keep the lights on at City Hall.
Thanks. Angela, I need to ask you about speaker cards. Do we have any?
We have no speakers.
Okay. I want to make sure that we got all that taken care of before we run out of time. Okay, anybody else have? Bob, did you want to say something?
I just want to make a comment. Somebody brought up about roads, and our roads in El Cajon are far superior as far as the maintenance is concerned compared to San Diego. I don't know if you have much driving to do down in the San Diego area, but their roads are falling apart, and it's terrible. And our roads are very nicely maintained, so we need to compliment our staff on how well they've done to keep them under good repair. So that's a real nice thing for your city to have good roads.
Okay, anybody else? Ben?
I got another question about property tax. You said it was 500,000 of that. I'm getting $1 million. Am I not doing it correctly?
Well, let's clarify what we're looking at first off. Could you tell me what page number you're working off of?
This doesn't have a page number on it, but
It was a slide.
it's the one you pulled up.
That one?
Yeah. So are we not adding back the FY 2017-18 to FY 2019, those 3 categories? 'Cause for those three, property tax, in lieu, and the distributions? So in that surplus, aren't you adding three categories? So aren't we adding all those three up?
I suppose, depending on the context of the discussion, we may or may not, depending on exactly what you're asking. Yeah.
Okay, so in the context of the these don't have page numbers. My apologies. I saw that one. Hold on. I guess it would be
We talking about
that one for the under budget. In that context, wouldn't we add back those three categories of property tax to give us $1 million?
Well, two things here. I keep hitting that button. I apologize. I think we need a version of this remote for larger thumbs.
Yeah.
This variance is comparing the FY18 budget to the FY18 collections. And this slide is comparing the 18 collections against the 19 budget. So you can't really connect the two.
How did you connect them with the $500,000 in property tax that you said?
Depend on what the growth in the 3.4% over budget for that.
Yeah.
I looked on page 27, and I pulled out a number that admittedly is probably doing quick and sloppy math, but I'm looking at the 18 actual against the 18 budgeted for those categories. Regular base sales tax is approximately 80,000 over. The VLF about 200,000 over, and the RPTTF is about 380,000. So I guess it's probably closer to 680 or 700,000.
Okay, I see. So then to what you said earlier was so budgeted versus actual, and then so it's going to change. That 3.4 will probably change.
Say that again.
Will the 3.4 then probably change for 18, 19?
That 3.4 is the comparison of where we think we're going to end 18 to the final budget in 18. So we will be wrong invariably. Projections always are, but we should be pretty close to that number. How that turns out will have an impact between these two columns as well, but it won't impact the 19 budget.
Okay. I may have some more questions, but I'll let you go, and I can email you later.
Okay.
Steve, we're going to have to wrap it up pretty quick, but go ahead.
So what's going to happen to the old animal shelter? Anything in the budget for that?
There's not anything right now. We know that something has to happen. It just can't remain the way it is. We're exploring several options. But until we know what those options are and present some of those options to the city council, it's hard to give you a dollar amount.
I think the community's concern vis-a-vis the old police station is the animal shelter becomes a magnet for things which aren't good, and demolition probably, in my opinion, should be sooner than later.
Absolutely.
All right. I want to ask the members of the public that if you have a question on the budget item specifically, we'll go ahead and give you an opportunity to ask a question now. We have another meeting in 5 minutes, so if we could do it. Well, good. Apparently all of your questions are answered, so Clay did a good job. All right, let me get to the end here. All right. The public hearing for the fiscal year 2018-2019 budgets will be conducted on the June 26, 2018, 3 o'clock meeting. We are now adjourned. The special joint meeting of the El Cajon City Council, Housing Authority, and successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency held this 12th day of June 2018 is adjourned, and we'll come back for City Council in about 5 minutes. Welcome to the El Cajon City Council meeting, and the meeting is now called to order, and I will ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
All council members are present.
Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a brief moment of silence? And Chief Davis, way back there in the back, would you mind leading us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. The city clerk posted orders of adjournment of the May 22nd, 2018 meeting and the agenda of the June 12th, 2018 meetings in accordance with state law and council authority successor agency, the redevelopment agency policy. We have no presentations on today's agenda, and that brings us to agenda changes. Staff, do you have any agenda changes?
No, sir.
Council, any agenda changes? We are now at consent items. Consent items are routine matters enacted by one motion according to the recommendation listed below. With the concurrence of the City Council, a council member or person in attendance may request discussion of a consent item at this time. Council members, do you wish to pull any of the consent items? Staff? Angela, do we have any speaker cards for consent items?
No speaker cards.
All right. Then I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent items. Second. Moved and seconded. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
At this time, any person may address a matter within the jurisdiction of the City Council, Housing Authority, and successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency that is not on the agenda. Comments relating to the items on today's agenda are to be taken at the time that the item is heard. State law prohibits discussion or action on items not on the agenda. However, council, authority, and agency members may briefly respond to statements or questions, and an item may be placed on a future agenda. Angela, do we have any cards under public comment?
We have 7 speakers, and the first one is Paul Johnson.
Mr. Johnson, welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm Paul Johnson. I'm with Villanova Mobile Home Park. I'm the SRA, Senior Resident Association President. About 4 weeks ago, I sat here and talked to you, and you guys, we talked a little bit about what our issue was here. Right now, we're with mediation trying to get rent control or rent stabilization under control. We're getting an annual 5% every year, which is making it hard on our residents right now. After the meeting, I was a little bit concerned because one of the councilmen came up to me and said, your hands were tied. And I go, what does that do? It means you can't do anything for us or what at the same time? So I took it on myself to go out and say we got 10 senior parks in the El Cajon area itself. There's 1,723 units that are in the same boat that we are, that their rent's going up and they're getting harder and harder to live at the same time. So we asked you if you'd come to our meeting and hear some of our discussions, and you guys agreed, but we haven't seen anybody there yet. So we just wondered, are you concerned, or are we just talking to the air as far as that goes? So, and you wrote it down and said, I'd be there. I know there was an election going on. You were probably busy. But our next one's the 16th, and we'd love to have speakers there so we can explain what our situation is, because right now we've had people that had to move up because they can't make their rent anymore. They're moving in and just renting a room, and because that's where they're at right now on the senior income. So it is an issue in El Cajon, and like you say, there's 1,723 units. If you take how many people live in those units, it's quite a number of persons at the same time. So we'd like your support in trying to get this under control if we could. So.
Well, thank you, sir. Any questions? Bob?
One of the things that there wouldn't be able to be more than 2 people at a meeting. So if somebody's there, if you get 2 people there, you've got a complete representation, because we can't go more than 2 people in a meeting that's unadvertised to the public 20, I think it's 72 hours before. So I think you've had Ben there a number of times.
No, he's been there once, not a number of
Yeah,
times, just
okay.
once.
Okay. But
But he was the only one that's been concerned so
yeah,
far.
I'm aware of what's going on. I'm aware of the situation you're in. It isn't only mobile homes that are in that situation. Every apartment renter in El Cajon is in the same situation, unfortunately, because they are having rent increases depending on the landlord's discretion. And it's just a tough thing in a tough economy. And I don't know, I don't have an answer for it, other than I think you're on the right path for this mediation situation.
Well, it'd be on the right path if you guys would come up and listen to our issues, as far as that goes. We talk, you say maybe one of you could come every meeting that we have, it's once a month, if you can come and just listen to what our needs are, we'd feel very grateful at that point in time. But right now, you're just telling me the same thing, there's nothing you can do. So,
Well,
as
until
a city council, we come to you because we do have an issue at the same time.
When is your next meeting, sir?
16th of this month.
June 16th.
And like I said, Ben was gracious to come out and talk to us, and it encourages the people that we have working for us, because right now we're in the process of trying to organize these 10 parks to come to the city council and put pressure on the city council to get something done. So I think there's strength in numbers, and that's what we're trying to get right now. We're one mobile home park. We're trying to get the other 9 to join us.
Isn't the rent mediation, you have to pursue that through a system of
It's one of your
steps?
ordinance. It's already being processed right
Yeah,
now. We're in
okay.
we're going.
So
with it.
you're on your way, and until that mediation happens, there's nothing any of us can do. We don't have control over the mediation.
But your support is what we're asking for at the same time. You asked our support when you want votes. So we're asking the same thing. You come back and support us at the same time.
I think we hear your pain. We understand what's going on. We're aware of the economy and what's happening out in the economy. And I don't know what good it would be if one of us came to your meeting or not, other than the support.
The support is what we need.
Okay.
When we're a group of 6 or 8 trying to enthuse people to come to this, and we have councilmen showing up, at least it shows concern.
Yeah.
Right now, we're not seeing any concern of you all. It's just we're coming and talking, and we just get the responses from you that, yeah, we'll be there at your meeting, but when it comes time for it, we don't see anybody.
What time is the meeting?
10 o'clock.
10? Did you say 10 a.m.?
10 a.m.
Okay.
Saturday. And if you need instructions, I'll be glad to give them to you with my phone numbers on there.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Gary?
Starting July 1st, there are new programs by the state designed for low-income residents of mobile home parks to actually buy their own mobile home park, so called a mobile home co-op. And they get low-interest loans from the state, and then you become your own landlord. You don't have to worry about any more rent increases. Have you guys looked into that?
We don't know anything about it, so that's why it's nice if you'd come and explain it to us at the same time.
I'll see if I can get you some information on that.
Yeah.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you coming.
Romina Curry.
Hi, welcome.
Hey everyone. I'm just here to quickly introduce myself. My name is Romiana Kouri, and I work with the District Attorney's Office. I'm a new crime prevention specialist, and my specialty is to take care of the East County, so El Cajon obviously part of it. We have an office in National City that we provide so many holistic evidence-based services for a large population in the South Bay and Central San Diego area. Nothing here yet, but that's what I'm doing here, actually, to start to identify what the issues and needs are in this, in El Cajon and the East County. And then from there, we can start probably doing something, build partnerships. And so, yeah, basically just learning about this community, and I'm relying on everybody in this room, on you, Mr. Mayor, and council members, and everybody to help me learn about it and see what the issues are going on here related to crime. Also, if anybody has any questions for the District Attorney's Office, you can come up to me and talk to me after the meeting, or I also have business cards for you. If any questions you have for the District Attorney's Office, you can talk to me, and then if I don't have the answer right away, I can probably just take it back to the office and contact you, and connect you with the right and appropriate department to talk to. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you. Let me see if there's any questions for you. Who are you working with in our city?
So I work with JJ. He's the director of the program. I work for the Prevention and Intervention Crime Unit.
Okay. Graham, are we connected with this group?
I assume our law enforcement department is, but I'm unaware, so we'll get her information at the end
Fantastic.
of the meeting.
Thanks for coming and taking the time.
Thank you so much.
Our chief is in the back. You can talk to him. The center person in the middle of the table there.
Thanks.
Sunshine Horton.
Hey, Sunshine, it's been a long time.
I told you I'm back.
You're back?
And I meant it.
You have a birthday recently?
No, I'm going to talk about a lot of things.
Okay,
But
all right.
first thing that I want to say is I am so happy and blessed that I live in America. Because to me, America is one step below heaven. Because we have every freedom that we want, and it's up to us to make them good and all that. So I love America. And then I think the world would be better if we talk to each other instead of one another. I think that we all are here for a reason, and I think that the one I believe in that is up there send us here, different colors, different race, different everything, to see if here when we can see each other, we could love each other. And I can because I love the spirit. Because when we go to our life forever after, we're just going to be a little spirit, and he wants to make sure that up there we'll get along too. So, that's how I see it. And I don't have a joke today, but I just wanted to lift our spirits because that's what I like to do. I've been walking in El Cajon, and I'm also going to get some shirts for the concerts with some saying that is real pretty, because we all have to make it a little act of kindness will take us a long way. Like if somebody's coming with groceries, can open the door, take your time. That's just, and that person will be happy. Just when you see somebody that they look like they're down on the spirit, and you see something pretty, oh my God, look at your purse, how beautiful it is. You lift the spirit. And that is my specialty that God sent me here for, to lift people's spirits, because I'm not here to make a lot of money, because everything I do, I use my husband's money. And he lets me because he loves me. But I pay the bills first, and then I use his money, because it's so good to come together and love one another. And also about volunteers, they don't get paid because they're worthless. They don't get paid because they're priceless. So everybody out there that would like to volunteer, please volunteer, because you guys are priceless. You have joy, because I do my volunteering everywhere from the heart. My time is coming up. So I'm going to be here from now on now, and I told you I'd be here and out there too, doing everything for the community to come together. Okay?
Well, welcome back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brenda Hammond.
Hi, Brenda. Welcome.
Hi. Hi, Graham. Mr. Mitchell. This is perfect. I love following this because anger is a normal human reaction to harassment, especially when the harassment is purposely done to someone so they can capture their reaction on video. So what do? I just give them what they're looking for. But did I drop the F word today?
Not yet.
Fun. Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda.
I can't wait for the concerts to dance.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Mark Egan.
Mr. Egan, welcome.
Thank you. My name's Mark Egan. I'm from Solterra Senior Residences. Last year, a group of us came in, and we had some concerns with the management operations of the property. The city manager and his staff responded to those, and code enforcement came out, and they corrected a lot of the problems that were there. However, in the responses from y'all, we had concerns about the annual rent increases. About 5 places in the responses, and everything I can find from California Tax Credit Allocation Committee, everything, it should be an annual increases. This year we got one after 9 months. So basically my rent has gone up about almost 15% in the last 9 months. Also, in the responses, they said that Solari, which is the management company, had agreed to give us 60-day notices of the rent increases. Although the law only states they have to give 30, the responses said that they committed to provide 60 days. This year, again, we only got it in 30 days. So not only are we getting the rate increase 3 months early, a whole quarter early, we're also not getting this 60-day increase. Also, we had some questions about the budget and operating statements from the property, and I know that Affirmed Housing, which is the general partner, and the city's a partner, I presume, because y'all put money into it plus own the property, won't give us the operating statements or an annual budget. I'd like to see where the money's going. They say that these increases are necessary, but I'd like to know if it's necessary for the operation of the property, or is it necessary to pad their bottom line and maybe invest in other properties? Or I'd just like to understand how it's done, and we can't get answers out of them on that. That's basically what we have. Again, would like to thank for the response from last year, and they did correct the code violations, lighting, and things of that nature. So I appreciate it. I will follow up with the city manager's office, but I want to start off here.
I think that's the appropriate first step. Work with the city manager. If you feel like you're not getting your needs met and your questions answered, please feel free to come back anytime.
Okay, thank you.
Jim Sirigliano.
Hi, Jim. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, staff. Just real quickly, Mr. Johnson covered a lot what I was going to say already. But in response to Councilman McClellan, you said about everyone being affected, apartment houses, condos. I'm just going to show this real quickly to the chamber again, because this, I'd like everyone to take a look at this. This is something that's going to be on the November ballot. And if you're at all concerned about rent control or rent stabilization, no matter where you live, we'd like to repeal this Costa-Hawkins. And if you go online, Google this, you'll find out what it is and why we're supporting this repeal. It's going to help everyone about affordable housing or rent control or rent stabilization. And Mr. Mayor, an update about the mediation also that we spoke about is that the owners of our park have not responded to the American Arbitration Association out of Fresno. They're the ones that are dealing with this mediation. And they have not responded yet. We have done everything on our part. So now we just have to kind of wait a while and see what happens. And of course, if they don't respond, there's no mediation. And this is where maybe perhaps the city manager or someone can help us out if that does happen. But they have not responded yet. And there are certain time limits. And they just haven't done it. I was confronted with 3 things this week here. I had someone come up to me and say, being too aggressive. And I told them, well, there's a difference between being aggressive and being assertive. And that was my answer to them. The second one was that they said, where are we? right now, which has a lot of connotations. And of course, more importantly, is where are we going? As a city or as my group from Villanova, I'm also from that mobile home park. And the third was that someone told me I was crazy. And my response was, thank you. Because it isn't the first time I've been called crazy. Councilman Kendrick, you've asked that same question before about the special funding and for buying parks, and I believe I addressed that at a couple of meetings ago. First of all, our park owners probably don't want to sell this place because it is a cash cow. And secondly, to raise that money, it does take money, whether it's a special loan or not, would be a burden already. We have enough of a burden on us already. So, and this is my personal feelings. If anyone has any questions, I think that's about all I have to say for today. But I would love to see you, Mayor, at our meeting on Saturday, okay? And that's open to anyone here, staff or anyone, because that's a sign of support, like Mr. Johnson was saying. And that's all we're asking is for your support, because in the long run, that support is going to make the difference. And remember, seniors vote. Okay, thank you so much.
Oh, sir, it's a
Yes.
comment. Yeah, I'm very familiar with a number of co-ops across the county.
Yes, go ahead.
And I know of one in particular in Fallbrook that years ago, it was mostly migrant farm workers. They bought the park and had very reasonable payments because it's super low interest loans subsidized by the state. And I really think I'd rather see you guys be owners of your piece of land than have to go on forever and pay rent. I just think that's a better thing for you economically. And I would like to see you guys look into that state program. I think they start again on July 1st. You know, they can't do every park, of course, because there's only so much money, because they're almost, handing you money because of the subsidy. And I think it's a lot better being the owner than being the tenant, all of you personally, for your finances.
And I realize what you're saying, okay? But like I said, I don't believe the park owners at this time would even question that.
Costs nothing to ask.
And I understand what you're saying. And also then the responsibilities that come along with owning your own
That's
park.
true.
Okay.
You take
And-
those
and we
responsibilities,
understand
but you
that
get the
also.
benefit of being your own master, so to speak.
All right. Just one thing I would like to say is that then, right and most important right now is getting through and trying to get this mediation done. And so far, these owners of our park, this is a usual tactic that they've used. I've dealt with the owners of our park before. I was a president of a GSMOL chapter for a few years. The same thing, whether mediation or whatever, they would not respond. And this is what we're up against. And they do the same stall tactics. We're requesting a meeting of our board with the owners now. They come back with wanting to divide us up, saying, we'll meet individually with you. No. I've seen this tactic before. So I'm just trying to say to you what our main goal right now, we want to try to get this mediation done. If not, then we'll take the next step. And this can happen. I don't care if it takes 2, 3, 4 years. I may not even be around. But that's how important this is. And like I've stated before, this imbalance between the owners and the residents of these parks. Councilman McClellan, I'm sure you've seen it before. Many years ago, going back to the late 1980s, early to about 1994, people were doing this, coming to council meetings, trying to get it done. But at least we're the first ones that have taken it this far. And if you have any other questions, I would really like to hear them, or do my best to answer them.
Good.
I don't have a question, but I remember sending an email to Doug when I first learned about this, and I asked him, what happens if the park owners just use the mediation documents or as a coffee coaster or something, because there's really nothing, I think, after. And I don't want to, I don't want to dive into too much of the legality because I don't know that too much, but I think it was nothing. You can't do anything to bring them to the mediation table. So you have to exercise other avenues.
Yes, and we will. But this is usually, like I said, for many years, a lot of people weren't even aware that the city manager's office even had some kind of anything that we can come through the city with. So that's why we did choose this here. But believe me, Councilman Colasso, I understand what you're saying. And this is our first recourse. And with the council's help, Mayor, the staff's help, it's way overdue. Way overdue.
Steve?
Especially for mobile home manufactured parks, and especially seniors.
Steve?
Mr. Srigliano, I'd like to offer you some relief. Relief through a phone call tomorrow. St. Paul's Pace just opened up at 2nd and Broadway a couple months ago for seniors age 55 and over. If you qualify, they take care of your medical care, they take care of prescription costs, they take care of dental work, they provide meals, they provide physical rehabilitation, and this may help defray costs for some of your seniors who are paying for these things. St. Paul's Pace, 2nd and Broadway, you can call tomorrow and see if you qualify. That might help many of you.
Well, I've been there. When they first opened up, I wanted to look and see what it was and the qualifications. And you're right. But it isn't that simple if you're renting in a mobile home manufactured park, and we've spoken to this before, what do we have to do? We have to try to sell our place, which is very difficult now because of the increasing rents. We're not mobile, we're immobile. We're stuck. I appreciate what you said. Like I said, I went and I checked it out because I wanted to see what was going on also. And if some of our seniors can afford that, or if they qualify, whatever matter, or if they want to live that lifestyle. Many people that have moved into mobile manufactured parks, that's the reason they've worked their whole lives and said, now I can retire and enjoy my life, read and eat bonbons the rest of the day if I want to. So it just isn't that simple, but I understand and I appreciate that, okay? So maybe I'll tell some of the other seniors about your request.
All right.
Yes,
Bob.
The reason I know what you're up against is when I first got out of college many years ago, my first wife and I, we rented a duplex. It was a 2-unit duplex. Our rent was $60 a month. The unit was brand new, and rents have increased ever since. And it's just, unfortunately, especially in Southern California, it's been going up and up and up and up. And in Southern California, where there's limited amount of properties available, it just exacerbates the problem and makes it worse and worse all the time. So I hear your pain, and I can sympathize with you. But I bought a house, obviously, and I was very fortunate in being able to do that. And we don't have the rent increases that people do. So that's why when Gary said makes a lot of sense, if you could buy your mobile home park, maybe the state would condemn it and force them to sell. I don't know. You have to look and see. But it's worth looking at.
Okay. Any information you can give me, I'd appreciate it. Councilor Kendrick. And just real quickly, that's why I'm saying about repealing this Costa-Hawkins. Please, everyone in here, if you're concerned about rent control or affordable housing, look it up online. You can even get a free banner, like I have here. And the other side of this banner says the rent is too damn high. I forgot to show it to you. But
thank you, sir.
I thank everyone for listening to me.
Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Our last speaker is Bonnie Price.
Hello, Bonnie. Welcome.
I want to associate myself first with remarks by Sunshine Horton, who was talking about caring about people who are different colors. We now have something going on at our border that is a travesty to humanity, where children are separated from their parents and they've just been told that they cannot have asylum, the parents, because of gang or domestic violence. That is an atrocity committed by our country, and we should change that. I know that's not under the purview of the city, but in view of Ms. Horton's comments, I wanted to say that. Now, in regard to the rent issue, I'm thinking the city council ought to put something on the website that will help people who are in similar circumstances to the people who live in mobile home parks, because not everyone is aware of the option to have mediation or arbitration. Wouldn't cost anything much to put this to your website, and since there are so many renters in El Cajon, you'd be doing a great public service to acquaint them with some ways they can handle their rent increases. Now, I happen to own a rental property. I know we get increases in taxes every year, and insurance rates go up, and homeowner association fees go up. So there are justifiable reasons to raise rents, but not 15%, not 20%. And I'm grateful that the head of HUD decided not to raise the rents 20% on government housing. That was atrocious. I don't know what the rent increase is going to be now, and I don't know how much HUD-funded housing there is in El Cajon, but probably some. But anyway, I think that the City Council ought to be helpful to people who live in the 73% of units in El Cajon that are rental units. Thank you.
Thanks, Bonnie.
No more speakers.
Okay. There are no written communications, and that brings us to item 14. Item 14 is for delinquent refuse collection charges, and I'd like to ask staff to tell us about this.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. Here before you today is a public hearing, and this is about delinquent refuge collection charges. These are people who have not paid their trash bill in quite some time. And so 3 times a year we come together and take these and apply them. First, adopt a resolution of the property owners who have delinquent charges per our municipal code, and instruct the city clerk to apply these as a lien on the property. And then once a year, those that are still outstanding and the liens have not been removed get applied to the county tax assessor for billing on the next property tax bill, which is this same time this year. So with this action, it will include the forwarding the list to the county tax assessor for the billing on the next property tax bill. As you know, this is done with trash or refuse and our sewer. So this first item 14 is for the refuse. A couple of interesting facts that go with this. Originally, on May 3rd, we had 369 accounts totaling $89,000 in past due accounts that hadn't been paid yet. So a letter was sent out by Waste Management, and a lot of those people did pay. So that reduced from 369 to 346 on May 31st when the staff report was first, or the agenda report was first produced. So that reduced it from $89,000 down to $83,000. And then as of yesterday, the latest accounting that we have, and which is going to be included in the list that you are approving today, that's gone down from the original 369 down to 329. So several people have paid, but it is still accounting for $81,000 approximately in past due trash bills. So before you today is that, and that's my report.
Thanks, Turk. Council, any questions of staff? Bob?
The list that you printed out for us at the desk here says item 14, sewer final list, and then on 15 it says refuge final list. Is that right? Are they backwards maybe?
I'm sorry, the item number is incorrect, but refuse final list is the ones that starts with 1224 Vista. So we just had our item number transposed.
Okay. That's what I thought maybe happened. Thank you.
Good call, Bob. Okay. I'd like to open the public hearing and ask Angela if we have any speaker cards.
No cards.
Then I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right, Council, any further discussion, or would you like to make a motion? Bob?
Adopt the next resolution in order confirming the list of property owners as delinquent on the payment of their mandatory trash service bills, and to authorize the city clerk to record the amount owed as a lien.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Item 15 is for delinquent sewer charges. I'd like to ask staff to tell us about this.
In a very similar fashion, Mayor and council members, we have before you delinquent sewer charges, and these are brought before you with a list of properties which have not paid their sewer service charge, and therefore we're asking that we confirm the charges and levy the assessments on the next regular tax bill. And just some statistical analysis here. We started on May 1st with 391 accounts totaling $102,000. As of the 5th of June, that was down to 215 accounts, so it's a considerable decrease, down from 391 to 215, and totaling $63,000, just over $63,000. As of yesterday, that has decreased again to 203 accounts, totaling about the same. The accounts, there was about 11 or 12 accounts that were paid, but the difference, because there were some return payments, doesn't account for a significant change. So this would account for the latest list that we have presented, and we're here to adopt the resolution and authorize the city clerk.
Great. Thanks, Derek. Appreciate that. Council, any questions? I'm going to open the public hearing and ask Angela if we have speaker cards.
No speaker cards.
Then I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Move and second, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right, Council, someone like to make a motion?
Adopt the next resolution confirming the charges and authorize the city clerk to place a lien on the delinquent
Second.
taxes.
Move and second, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Item 16 is a public hearing for consideration of a fee adjustment for the Transportation Uniform Mitigation Fee Program. This item was continued from May 22nd meeting, and staff, would you please explain this to us?
Yeah, annually we have this fee adjustment, kind of like CPI, and I'm going to ask our traffic engineer, Mario Sanchez, to come up and explain what this is in detail.
Thank you. Hi, Mario.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. Here before you is our regional congestion improvement program. It's part of the transit ordinance, and it's an annual adjustment. This year, the annual fee has gone up 3.3%. It's up to $2,483.48 per each new single-family dwelling unit constructed. To date, we have since the program was in place, We collected over $600,000 in fees, and that funds our improvements for streets, overlays, traffic signals, and all our major streets. So we're asking for approval of this fee. That concludes my report.
Questions? Steve?
This is a required fee by Sandag, not something the city of Elkhorn has discretion over, correct?
No, it's required by Sandag, it's part of the ordinance. That
Required by
all
Sandag.
the members agencies have to apply.
Anybody else have a question? Ben?
What was it last year?
It was $2,404.14, and that's for new single-family dwelling units, and excludes affordable housing and senior housing. It's just...
All right. Thank you, Mario. I appreciate that.
Since there's no discretion, I would move that we adopt the next resolution.
Let me open the public hearing first and see if we have cards. I'm going to open the public hearing. Angela, do we have speaker cards?
We have no speaker cards, sir.
Let's go through the process. So now I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Move in second, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right, Bob, back to you.
Then I'll move to adopt the next resolution.
Second. Moved and seconded, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right. Y'all still awake out there? Dirk tried to make it exciting, but move on to something new here. Item 17 is a public hearing for Underground Utility District number 28. Staff, would you introduce this item, please?
Well, now I kind of feel obligated to step it up a little bit.
You need to do a little better.
I'm going to put a blue screen on the wall here, and we'll see if we can liven it up. Thank you for this opportunity. As you know, underground utility districts, they take overhead utility lines and place them underground. It is actually it's a sight for sore eyes for our community. They love to see this, and when it happens, it is most certainly welcomed. Yep. And it doesn't happen very often because the collection of the fees comes out of every SDG&E patron's bill, and it's a little fee that's in there that goes to this underground utility bank or fund. And so that's reserved, and that is referred to as Rule 20A funds. It is a rule by the California Public Utilities Commission that allows for this to happen. And it's a good thing when we do have enough to go on to another district. Now, we had Utility District 26, which was one previously, and we are nowhere near close to doing that one, but we do have enough for this new district that we're bringing before you today, and we feel that it is a higher priority for us. So this is a two-step process. Today we're going to open a public hearing and then come back on June 26th for the resolution creating the district. And just so that we understand what we're talking about North Magnolia Avenue as the underground district there. You can see that we've got the Home Depot, where my arrow's pointing on the screen, on the left there, and just outside of the district. And so it's Magnolia Avenue from Fletcher Parkway north to the city limit, or Vernon Way there, next to the SoCo station. And this project is going to underground the overhead utilities. Some of those overhead utilities go through the old police station site and up through Magnolia Avenue up to Vernon Way. So the priority that we're seeking to put in place here, because we do have enough now in our Rule 28 funds to do North Magnolia Avenue, which would now become Underground Utility District 28, prioritizing that as number one, and then leaving East Main Street on the list, but prioritizing it as number two, with the remaining funds going to that, and to continue to build so that at a future date we can do that underground utility district. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Dirk. Any questions for Dirk? I just want to clarify something. My understanding is that all these funds are coming from an SDG&E fund?
It is a small percentage of each bill that is collected that goes into this fund.
But we're not paying for this out of the general fund. It's coming from the SCG&E fund.
Very good. Yes, that is correct.
And they've completely agreed to this process.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you, Dirk. All right. I'm going to open up the public hearing and ask if we have any speaker cards on this item.
We have no cards, sir.
I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right. Council, this seems like only a good thing. Any discussion or
No?
motions?
Chair, I'll make a motion that the city adopts the next resolution order to consider a new underground utility district number 28. And that's my motion.
Second.
All right. Moved and seconded. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right. Item 18 is a public hearing for an amendment of schedule of miscellaneous fees. This item, we did that already.
18.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Angela, this is on the, we continue with this?
Number 18 is next. Schedule of miscellaneous fees.
Okay, I thought I was having a deja vu, but okay, so.
Well, you are, because we had this at the last meeting. So
all right.
You've not gone delirious or anything like that.
Thank you.
Mayor, members of the council, this is a return of the continued public hearing on the for council's consideration of updating our miscellaneous schedule of fees charged to users of facilities and customers to our accounts and things of that nature. At the last meeting, it was discovered that there was no attachment that reflected a change in the fees from what is currently being imposed and what is being proposed. I apologize for that. I was as dumbfounded as could be because we had an attachment, but because it used track changes in our new system, automatically converted that to a clean document. We have attached a PDF that we've learned not to use Word anymore. I was the first one to discover that problem. But we now have a PDF that's attached to your agenda report that does reflect the changes. I've also attached a schedule at Mr. Colashio's request or suggestion, actually, a schedule that shows just the fees that are being changed, because what is before you on the first attachment is all of the fees that are in place, and some of those don't change at all. So the second attachment reflects only those fees that are changing, and I also added a column that gave a percentage, whether it was plus or minus, of the existing fee. I hope that helps you in your determination. Specific questions from each department that is involved can be addressed by those departments at this time. But at this point, we need to open the public hearing and then have your discussion after that.
All right. Council, any questions? Okay, I'd like to open the public hearing and ask Angela if we have any speaker cards.
No speaker cards, sir.
Then I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right, council discussion. Somebody like to make a motion then?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Item 19 is a report on the award of RFP 005-19, street sweeping services for the cities of El Cajon and La Mesa. I'll ask staff to introduce this item.
Okay, so we're ramping up here. We're getting to more exciting, and this is actually a really good news story. Graham mentioned a little snippet about it in the budget meeting earlier today, and we just want to tell the story of this is a win-win-win situation. And let me tell you, it talks about collaboration that equals experience. It talks about higher quantities that equal lower prices, and we talk about cost savings, and that's really what the win-win-win is here. So we were faced with a decision to make, and that we were looking at the aging infrastructure that we had, or our equipment, rather, the street sweepers themselves were aging quickly and they were falling apart, and we needed to look at, okay, is the cost of maintaining the equipment or purchasing new equipment worth it for the citizens of El Cajon? And so we did a full analysis, and we found that it would actually be prudent for us to outsource the street sweeping services. Say that 5 times fast, right? So the street sweeping, yeah, I'm saying it right. Okay, the street sweeping services, we decided to move forward, yet we didn't have a lot of experience in that. And our neighbors, the city of La Mesa, has been doing the 5-year contract approach for many, many years. And so we approached them, and through that process, we determined that we could combine forces and actually go out with one combined RFP, because their 5-year contract was nearing its end. So the timing couldn't have been better. And so we collaborated with the city of La Mesa to do a joint RFP, and their experience really helped us in preparing that solicitation. We took the lead on it, and we were able to use their experience from the past, their lessons learned, and we put out a really good RFP. We have about 760 curb miles. They have about 545 curb miles, which totals 1,305 total curb miles. I know that that might mean nothing to you, but what the bottom line means is more miles to be able to bid with, and that's attractive to bidders. We got some really good bidders in, and in fact, we looked at La Mesa's price from 2013 that they had, and we were 8 cents lower per curb mile in an economy that's stronger. So we decreased the cost by combining and using their expertise. That's a win. That is definitely a win for the citizens. Now I want to talk about the cost savings on what we've been spending annually for upkeep and to maintain all the vehicles that we have. The vehicles that we have, the street sweepers, they're being held together with duct tape and baling wire. They should have been replaced a year and a half to 2 years ago, and we've just been stretching them along as we knew that we were going through this process. So what we're projecting now is that red line, which is considerably lower. It's a projected annual savings of $238,000. That is a win for the public. And so some important notes to remember on this. The contract term is a 1-year contract with 4 one-year options, which is very common for this type of thing. It means that if satisfactory performance is happening on the part of the street sweeper contractor, then we can continue. They had a very low adjustment rate at 2%, which was amazing, and the total value of all 5 years is approximately $1.4 million. And we put in some performance measures. We don't want to just keep giving it to them if they're not doing their job right. And so I want to talk about this a little bit. We actually put into, and this is something we learned from La Mesa, we put into the requirements that they have to have GPS tracking, which spits out a report that allows us to see where they are, when they're doing it, and how well they're doing it. And how can we tell that from a GPS tracking? Well, if they're sweeping a street at 35 miles an hour, how much dirt do you think they're going to pick up? Not very much. And so it really is about 3 to 4 miles an hour what they need to do. And that report tells us, because it's GPS, how fast they were doing the work. And so we know where they were, when they were doing it, and how fast they were doing it. Sometimes you just want to get through it, right? And you want to speed, and you know, time is money. But in our case, we want them to slow down. We want them to get the streets done right. And another very important point to make here is we had 3 employees originally driving our in-house street sweepers, and one of them has since retired. And we have the existing 2 employees. We met and conferred with the union, and we actually gave them an option of where they wanted to go in an interest of kind of hearing them out, we had an idea, and guess what? Where they wanted to be reassigned is exactly where we thought they should go, and the fit was perfect, so they're happy. And as I said earlier, the existing equipment will be auctioned or removed from our fleet. So in an effort to get better at what we do, we want to inform the public of, how do you know when your street is supposed to be swept? And so we are in development right now of an interactive street sweeping map, which will be in the near future put up on our website. And I want to give you a little preview here of that map just really quickly. So you can actually search by address, or you can just zoom in to anywhere you want to. And if you want to look at where you are and when your street is being swept, you just go to where you are, click on the map, and a little bubble will pop up, and this says monthly street sweeping zone. You're the third Thursday of every month. And so that's going to be rolling out here. We're working with our server to get that up so that the public can see that hopefully in the new fiscal year. But we're not only talking about providing better service and accountability and that win-win-win, but we're looking at trying to feed the information to the public in a more efficient way so that they know, so we have better transparency and better access to the information that we're providing them. So we're very excited and we're grateful for this opportunity to share this with you today. And thank you very much.
Nicely done. Thank you. Questions? Bob first?
Yeah. Will all streets be 1 month or just some streets? And what is the frequency of some of the others? More frequently and less frequently? And
very good. As a general rule of thumb, residential streets are once a month. And you can look at that map there and click on the different zones as I showed in my demonstration. However, you will notice that there are some thick, bold, rainbow-colored streets there. We have red and green and yellow and purple. And those streets actually are weekly. And in the case of the Green Street, which is our main arterials, are twice weekly. So we actually have to sweep a little bit more frequently in the downtown and on our main arterial streets. And then the bright colored ones are weekly. So for example, yellows are every Monday, weekly every Monday of the month. And orange is Tuesday, purple Wednesday, and red Thursday. And if you click on those, you'll be able to, the little pop-up will tell you that it's weekly on Monday.
And that's on our website?
Not yet. We're working on getting it up there, but hopefully in the new fiscal year, we'll be able to get that up quickly.
Very good. Thank you.
Anybody else? Ben?
It's just a comment on the thoroughness of the presentation and how this was put together. When I was reading it, I was thinking, oh, it's going to be like a 5-year term, and then because I want to do a 1 year, and then so when you said it, I just checked it off, and then I had an idea about something like this, and so I'm glad to see that that's being done, and then auctioning off the old equipment. So it's really good, and it's very thorough, and it was one of the more pleasant items I read. It was all covered. So good job, whoever did that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I do want to point out that one of the big savings in this is not having more personable employees. As we go into the future, we, as much as we can to mitigate some of those costs, that's going to be helpful to the next council and far on down. So thank you. Okay. Angela, do we have any speaker cards on this?
No cards, sir.
All right, council, any more questions, or would you like to make a recommendation? Ben?
Move to approve 19.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right, item 20 is a report on the solid waste franchise agreement, and I'd like to ask staff to please introduce this item.
All right, I promise this is my last one.
You've batted 1,000 so far. Everybody, you've got everyone passed. So.
Well, that's due to our great staff that we have. So I thank them. This is about our solid waste franchise agreement or contract solicitation process. And so let me just kind of walk you through a few things here. Currently, we have two agreements. One is a solid waste hauling or a franchise agreement with Waste Management, and we have had that for the last 24 years. And that also includes a lease agreement at 1001 West Bradley. Both of these agreements expire on December 31st, 2020. We are definitely looking to the future and what this whole process entails. And so what we're coming to you today with is a little bit of that process and why we're mentioning it now in 2018 when the contracts don't actually end till 2020 and the very last day of 2020. So just a reminder, the property at 1001 West Bradley is at the corner of North Marshall Avenue and West Bradley Avenue. It's actually on the north end, just north of where the new animal shelter was built, and it's a functional transfer station for Waste Management currently. Also, they store all of the trash trucks there. They have a place where they maintain the trash trucks. They have recycling. So there's actually, and then they have admin offices there. So it's a beautiful facility that is definitely showing some age, but it's there nonetheless. So when we're talking about the property at 1001 West Bradley, that's the property we're talking about. So I just wanted to make sure we were clear and all on the same page. So this timeline and why are we doing this? First of all, I want to point out that the solicitation process and why we're starting now is we need to know what we don't know, and we need to find that out. And part of that process is finding out, is making sure that this process is flexible. Do we include the property at 1001 Bradley or not? And that's something that we have not determined. I want to tell you now that we have not predetermined that as part of this process. It could go on the same or it could not. And the process, the solicitation process that we're trying to consider will leave that open for the bidders. Some bidders may come in, or proposers may come in and say that the property is valuable to them and they want it included in part of this process. Some may come in and say it's not valuable to us. We already operate. We have a transfer station close by and we don't need it. And so that's why we want to vet some of these things out. So we're starting the process early so that we can educate ourselves. So beginning next month, and then we want to go through this, make sure that we get the solicitation documentation correct and right. Does it include getting outside consultant help? Possibly, maybe not. We're looking at that. Maybe we have to get a consultant on board that specializes in solicitations of solid waste contracts for franchises. Okay, that may be something we look at. But if there's no value there, then we're not going to do it just for the sake of doing it. But we want to make sure that we weigh all of our options. And then we'll advertise that solicitation by October 2019. And then we'll let it be out on the street for people to look at, for proposers to look at, firms to really put together a good package. And then we will receive the solicitations. After we receive them and we go through that process, there may be an update to the council at that time. We may need some more direction. We depending on the type of process that we go through here. And then we'll make a final selection and come to City Council for award of the franchise contract in March 2020. The reason, and I know that you're saying, well, why March so far ahead of the December expiration? Well, whoever might be coming in needs to ramp up their operations. They need time, and there may be time needed on all parties' ends to make changes in their operations. So we're looking at this with an open eye, trying to find out what's best for the citizens. Really, how can we make this the best possible situation? And what it comes down to is how much do you pay for your trash service at the end of the day? And so we want to make sure that we make correct decisions, hopefully that end up better than before. Maybe not. We will see. But it's time to go with an open solicitation on this after 24 years. And so that's what we have before you. And I thank you for allowing me to make this presentation.
Thank you, Dirk. All right, council, any questions or comments?
Yes. When we look at the different options, I think we need to take into account all of the things that waste disposal has done for us in the past, as far as what the cost of that would be against another franchisee, and the franchise fees that we receive, and that all has to be added into the benefit that the city gets, and then we have to look at it compared to others and what benefit we would get through their services. So when you make a comparison, you have to make it equal for both parties.
Mr. McClellan, that's one of the reasons why we're considering perhaps the need for a consultant. If you were to compare our solid waste rates with all the other cities, it's a difficult job to do that comparison, because one entity may provide a silver bag program for seniors and another may give free disposal days. So the consultant will help identify a value for each of those items to give us the best value. So there is a complicated process to evaluate these, and it's one of the reasons why a consultant in time may be needed.
Steve?
One of the things that's government can help private industry is providing certainty, because when you provide certainty, then private industry knows what the rules are going to be and what potential costs were going to be. So it's kind of, should we approve this, I think it's fair to Waste Management. We don't want Waste Management investing $1 tomorrow into property there if they don't know what the outcome is going to be. And so in a way, this is fair to everybody. By providing certainty today, we help our existing relationship not have to invest money that might be at risk. So this is actually considers everybody in this situation in a good way.
All right.
I do like the idea of hiring an outside consultant, because this is very complicated. We want to compare apples and apples, because I know that Waste Management does a whole lot of different things, and they might do things that another applicant might do, and we have to have an expert to weigh all these things and assign a cost and benefit to all of these. So that would be my direction.
Okay. I'd like to hear what speakers have to say. Do we have any speaker cards?
We have one, and before I call her, I did put an item that was left, the information sheet that was left on your desk. The gentleman didn't wish to speak, but he wanted you to have that.
Thank you.
And the speaker we have is Christine Costa.
Hey, Christine, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members, city staff. Just wanted to come up and just let you guys know we're proud to serve the city of El Cajon. We thank you very much for the opportunity to be the city's exclusive solid waste and recycling services provider and community partner for more than 24 years. It's been an honor and a privilege to be partner with the city of El Cajon. I just come before you today regarding the staff's recommendation to move forward with a solicitation for the solid waste agreement and for the desire to include our lease agreement in that process. As you're aware, they're two separate agreements, and although they do have the same expiration date, they've always been separate agreements. We understand and respect the city's desire to provide staff direction as to its intent for solid waste and recycling services beyond 2020. And we're very interested in reinvesting in this facility with new infrastructure and technology that's going to better serve our customers, our El Cajon customers, our residents and our business today into the future. So while we appreciate staff's desire to move quickly, I'm just here to reach out and just say educate yourself on the 2 lease agreements. I'm happy to sit down with you guys and discuss both of those and answer any questions that you guys have with them. This is the first we're learning of the timeline and the direction that staff is intending to go, and we just feel that we encourage you to educate yourself on the 2 agreements, and just wanted to say we're here if you have any questions about either one of them, and we look forward to future discussions in the entire process, and just thank you for your time today and for the partnership.
Let me see if there's any questions. So, are you comfortable then with the recommendation, or were you asking for something different?
Well, it sounds like they're unsure. It sounds like they're not going to be combined at this time. They're not sure if that's what the direction is. Ultimately, our goal would be to separate the 2. They've always been separate, just keep them separate. As I mentioned, there is some infrastructure and new technology that we do want to put into that facility. The uncertainty is there, and we're not sure how to proceed at this point.
Well, that facility serves more than just the El Cajon area, right?
It serves San Diego County from the United States-Mexico border to Del Mar out to Campo. So yes, all of San Diego County.
All right. And hold tight to staff. Is it possible one of the scenarios would be another company handling the solid waste and then still leasing out this building to Waste Management, or would they definitely go together?
Mr. Mayor, I think we think that there should be some flexibility in how we bid this, because there could be, let's say, Company X that clearly provides the best value to the city of El Cajon, but has absolutely no need for a transfer station. So there's very little value that land would have to that other company, where Waste Management may find tremendous value in that transfer station with or without an exclusive franchise with the city of El Cajon. So in that case, the city would benefit from splitting those apart. In some cases, there may be some benefit of combining them together. In some cases, frankly, I think we need to be open to the reality that perhaps this piece of property is far more valuable not being a transfer station altogether. And so I think this process will help tease out what is the ultimate highest and best use for that piece of property, so we can look at the taxpayer in the eye and say, we've done the best for this piece of property. But we don't know what that is right now until we further analyze it and talk to the potential bidders.
So in this process, how can we ensure that the rest of the county is not damaged through this, and that we at least give Waste Management a fair ability in regard to this, not to the contract, but to the building and the money they've put into it and the money they want to put into it? It's a little confusing to me as how we can move forward and do what we have to do, but at the same time still remain fair to all parties involved.
So what we don't know is the role that does play region-wide, and are there alternatives to our facility region-wide? We don't know that. I can't give you a definitive answer how strategically valuable that is.
So how would you be coming to that conclusion and then getting that information to us? How do you anticipate that happening?
We need to analyze that and understand what flows through there, and what are those alternatives. And then a lot of it's going to be as part of the bid process. We do intend on using some alternative bidding methods where we want to actually engage with these folks. They're not going to be receiving a document for the first time and responding to it. We're actually going to be having some communication with the parties to understand and educate ourselves, because we do have responsibilities to our citizens, but also to the region as well with this piece of property. Sure. So that's one thing. The other is we at some point we'll be bringing forward an actual document, a solicitation document for the council to consider, and that would be a chance for that to be vetted by the council, by the public as well. So that's sort of the checkpoint for us to ensure that there is some prudent decision making in how we move forward. The last thing is, this goes back to the reason why we're starting this so early. This does give all the parties a chance to consider, well, what are our alternatives? In a worst-case scenario, what would happen? And so there's a lot of planning that goes forward. Mr. Epperson presented a calendar that gives 9 months to award. We're actually hoping to award a little bit sooner than that, but we've given ourselves lots of time. That would give every party a chance to gear up. The other thing that we may want to consider as part of this is, in the event Waste Management does not secure the exclusive franchise, and let's say another company does, they may not need the transfer station immediately either, because there is a system currently in place. And so there's an opportunity to slowly wind down different properties as well, or uses of property. So I think there's just so many variables right now that I don't think it would be prudent to make that determination tonight. I think we're looking from the council for as much flexibility as we can in marketing both contracts.
So last question then. Will this come back to council again before it goes out to bid?
Yeah, I propose that we do sort of, as we either bring on a consultant and we do some analysis, that we bring some information back to the city council.
That's what I appreciate. Okay. All right. Any more questions of staff? Or Christine's been waiting up here for a long time. Thanks, Christine.
Thanks.
All right. Do we have any other speakers?
No more speakers.
All right. Okay, council. I'll bring it back to you. Any thoughts, or somebody just want to make a motion? Yeah, Steve.
Competition's good for the taxpayers, the ratepayers. It just is, especially in this kind of a situation. So competition makes the service better for the end user.
The one thing I wanted to hear was that we're going to have a chance to, again, look at this before it goes out to bid, and it sounds like that's what we're going to get, and it sounds like the staff, as usual, is taking a very thorough and prudent approach to this. So, Steve, would you like to make a motion?
Sure. I'll move that the council considers recommending a solicitation process for a franchise agreement and include the lease option for the city-owned property at 1001 West Bradley.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Great. Oh, that should be an interesting process. Okay, there are no commissioner reports today. And item 21 is my activities report, which is as reported. Item 22 is the legislative report. Since the last city council meeting, there has been several beneficial amendments to SB 946. That's the proposal that would limit the city's ability to regulate sidewalk vendors and vendors in city parks. However, even with these amendments, the bill is a significant blow to local control. I recommend that staff prepare another letter re-expressing the city's concerns. That is my motion, but let's open the discussion if you'd like to. All right, then move to second. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right, we're now at activity reports for council members. Mayor Pro Tem Gary Kendrick.
As reported.
Councilmember Bob McClellan.
As reported.
Councilmember Ben Kalasho.
They are as I reported them.
Councilmember Steve Goebel.
As reported, except I need to strike June 8th Habitat grand opening. I didn't make that one.
It was hot. All right, there are no joint councilmember reports and no general information items for discussion. We have no first or second readings today. We are now at closed session. We have one item on the agenda, and I will ask our city attorney to please recite the title and lead us into the closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council will be meeting closed session on one item. It's a conference with legal counsel on existing litigation pursuant to paragraph 1 of subdivision D of Government Code section 54956.9. The name of the case is Murphy and Pitsley versus City of El Cajon. It's a United States District Court case. Thank you.
I'll make a motion then to adjourn to closed session. Moved and seconded. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go to closed session. We'll be back in a few minutes to conclude the meeting. What happened in the closed session?
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council met in closed session on conference with legal counsel for existing litigation as described on the agenda and previously reported. There was no reportable action taken.
This brings us to adjournment. The regular joint meeting of the El Cajon City Council, El Cajon Housing Authority, successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency, held this 12th day of June 2018, is adjourned till Tuesday, June 12th, 2018 at 7 o'clock p.m. Thank you.